My name is Patsy, and I am 56 years old. From my messy work table littered with paper and glue pots, I looked up at my daughter's perfectly embossed wedding invitation. It smelled like a bank. Chloe and Brent would be married at the Willow Creek Country Club this coming Saturday. My heart fluttered with excitement, but there was a deep unease I didn't dare name. Why did all the wedding talk with my daughter feel more like a business negotiation than a happy plan? Before I share what happened on that pivotal day, I'm curious to know where you're joining me from today. Let me know your city or town in the comments below. And if you've ever felt diminished at a family event, click that like button so I know I'm not alone. Let's begin this journey together. The warmth of my little home workshop usually comforted me. The scent of old paper leather bindings and wheat paste was my sanctuary. It was where I felt closest to my late husband Michael, a history teacher who'd filled our house with stories and books. After he passed when Chloe was just 15, this craft became my lifeline, and Chloe became my whole world. We were a team, my girl and I. She'd tell me about her dreams of being a writer, her indie band phase, her thrift store chic style. We talked about everything. Then 18 months ago, she met Brent Sterling. The first time I met him, he was impeccably polite. Shiny shoes, a handshake that was just a little too firm. Eyes that scanned my cozy, book-cluttered living room like he was assessing its square footage. He was handsome, sure, but in a way that felt manufactured like a glossy magazine ad for something expensive you don't need. Chloe hung on his every word. The changes were slow at first. The guitar in the corner gathered dust. Her colourful flowing skirts were replaced with sleek, neutral-toned sheath dresses. Our long, rambling phone calls became shorter, more scheduled. Brent and I have a charity gala, she'd say, or we're meeting with Brent's father's associates. Though we never included me anymore. The invitation arrived thick and heavy. Along with it was a typed letter from Chloe. It explained the formality and scale of the event. The language was stiff foreign. It talked about curated guest experiences and managing spatial logistics. Then near the end, a casually devastating line. Given the limited seating and the importance of the Sterling family's guest list, there might need to be some minor adjustments, Mum. I hope you understand. My chest tightened. Minor adjustments, I brushed it off. I was being too sensitive. This was her big day. I wanted to help. So I poured my heart into a gift. I spent weeks carefully restoring our old family photo album, the one with the cracked leather spine. I repaired the pages, cleaned the photos of Michael, holding a toddler Chloe of Christmases of beach trips. I even added new blank pages at the end for her new memories. I presented it to her over tea, my hands almost trembling with pride. She stared at it, her expression unreadable. "Oh, Mom, this is so much work. It's really thoughtful." She ran a manicured finger over the cover. "But I'm not sure it fits the aesthetic. Brent and the planner have a very cohesive theme. Minimalist. Modern. This might stand out." It felt like a door gently closing in my face. "It's your family history, Chloe," I said softly. "I know," she said quickly, pushing the album back toward me. "And I love it. Really. Maybe just keep it safe for me here." The dress shopping was the tradition I'd held on to. I'd pictured it since she was a little girl. Just us. Maybe a few close friends, laughing and crying in a fitting room. I called her excitement in my voice. "When are we going to look for your dress, sweetheart?" I've cleared my calendar. There was an awkward pause on the line. "Oh, Mum." Actually, Helena Brent's mum, she has a connection with a designer in the city. We already went. She knew exactly what would work for a venue like Willow Creek. The air left my lungs. "You already went? You didn't want me there?" "It was kind of a last-minute thing," she said. her voice adopting that new, breezy tone that felt so practiced. Helena's just so busy, and she really gets it, you know. The social expectations. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Can I at least see a picture? The designer is keeping it under wraps for now. Don't worry, you'll see it day of. The finality in her voice was a clear boundary. Do not cross. The guest list conversation was worse. I asked if I could invite Mrs. Gable from next door, who'd brought us casseroles for a month after Michael died, or Tom Michael's old teaching buddy. Chloe's sigh was one of pure exasperation. Mum, you don't understand. Each plate at this wedding costs more than your monthly pension check. Brent's family has crucial business partners attending. We have to prioritize. The word hung in the air between us. Priority. Where was I on that list? The breaking point was the mother of the bride dress. Helena Sterling herself invited me to lunch and a shopping trip on her. It wasn't an invitation. It was a summons. In a boutique where the saleswomen spoke in hushed tones, Helena picked out a dress for me. It was a pale grey, column style, ruthlessly elegant and exorbitantly priced. It was the kind of dress that made me disappear. It's very nice, Helena, I said, trying to be polite. But I actually have a dress, a blue one. Michael always loved me in blue. Helena's smile was thin and patient, the kind you give a child who doesn't know any better. Patsy, dear, we all have to make little sacrifices for the sake of the children's vision. You don't want to stick out, do you? This will blend perfectly. She looked to Chloe for backup. My daughter. My Chloe looked from Helena's expectant face to mine. I saw a flicker of the old, her a wince of guilt, but it was snuffed out quickly. She nodded, avoiding my eyes. Mum, Helena's right. It's a beautiful dress. It'll look great. I left the store with the grey dress in a garment bag that felt like a shroud. That evening I sat on my back porch, the weight of it all crushing me. My neighbour Arthur was tending his rose bushes. He was 83, a retired family court mediator with eyes that missed nothing. He saw me sitting there in the twilight, still holding that bag. Rough day, Patsy, he asked, leaning on his cane. The whole story tumbled out. The album, the dress shopping, the priorities, the grey dress. He listened, never interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment, looking at the first evening stars. People, he said. Finally, his voice a low rumble. They sometimes lose their compass when they start climbing a new hill. But their moral gyroscope is still in there. Sometimes it just needs a little nudge to remember true north. The week before the wedding, a large cream-coloured envelope arrived by courier. Inside was a detailed itinerary and a folded, elegant seating chart. My fingers trembled as I unfolded it. I found Table 1, Immediate Family and Principals. I scanned the names, Mr. and Mrs. Sterling Brent Chloe, an aunt, a grandfather. My name wasn't there. A cold dread seeped into my stomach. I scanned Table 2, 3, 4. My eyes darted down to the very edge of the diagram. There it was. Table 12. Tucked in a corner near the kitchen doors. And next to it, a small notation in fine print, Friends and Associates Secondary of the bride's family. Secondary. I was secondary. I had no seat at my own daughter's family table. I was to be housed with the help and the distant connections. The paper blurred in my vision. I called Chloe. I couldn't keep the shake out of my voice. Chloe. I got the seating chart. Oh, good, she said, sounding distracted. They finally sent them out. I'm at Table 12, Chloe. By the kitchen, a pause. Then a defensive sigh. Mum. It's not a big deal. Table 1 is tiny. It's just for immediate family and Brent's most important clients. You'll be more comfortable at a table where you can talk to people who are more on your level. The words were a physical blow. Am I not your immediate family? I whispered. Another longer pause. Of course you are, Mum, but you have to understand the circumstances. This is how these things are done. Please don't make this about you. Don't ruin this for me. The line went dead. I sat there for an hour, hollowed out. The pain wasn't just about a chair. It was about being erased, deemed unworthy of the new glossy world she was marrying into. I thought of Arthur's words. A little nudge. This wasn't a nudge. This was an erasure. But I would not be erased quietly. I wasn't going to boycott. That would let them write the story. The difficult, emotional mother who couldn't handle her daughter's success. No, I would go. And I would go with my head held high. I picked up the phone and dialed Arthur's number. Arthur, I said. When he answered, my voice steadier than I felt. What are you doing this Saturday? I need a +1. And I might need a little moral authority. On the other end, I could almost hear his quiet, knowing smile. The man who'd faced down the most bitter custody battles without raising his voice. I'll polish my best suit, Patsy. The Willow Creek Country Club gleamed under a perfect autumn sun. It was all sweeping lawns, towering white columns and valets parking endless luxury cars. The air smelled of expensive perfume and money. It felt sterile, not joyful. I wore my blue dress, the one Michael loved. It was simple, but it was me. In my small clutch, I carried the restored family album. Arthur arrived looking like a dignitary from another era. His suit was old but impeccably tailored. A silk tie at his throat, his silver hair combed back. He carried a polished mahogany cane, not for feebleness, but for stature. We walked into the opulent foyer together. No one greeted us at the welcome table. We moved through the cocktail hour crowd. I saw table 1. It was a round table, slightly elevated, with a stunning floral centerpiece. Chloe was there, breathtakingly beautiful, but with a strained smile. Brent looked polished and bored. Helena Sterling held court, shimmering in champagne-colored silk. They were in a bubble, laughing with people I didn't recognize. Arthur offered me his arm. We walked past table 1, past 2, 3, 4. The tables grew less ornate, the flower arrangements smaller. We passed a table of boisterous young men, Brent's fraternity brothers. Then we reached the back corner near a swinging door that flapped open occasionally with the clatter of dishes and shouts of "Order up." Table 12. It was a plain rectangle. The people seated there looked uncomfortable, out of place. A man in a driver's cap fiddled with his phone. 2 women in sensible dresses whispered to each other. They were the drivers, the personal assistants, the landscaper who worked for the Sterlings. They all looked up as we approached, confused. I did not sit down. I looked at Arthur and gave a small, firm nod. We turned in unison and walked back the way we came through the gauntlet of stairs. We headed toward the rows of white chairs set up for the ceremony on the lawn. We found 2 empty seats in the very last row and sat down. The ceremony was about to begin. A string quartet started playing. The guests began to take their seats. I saw Brent and his groomsmen take their places under the floral arch. Then the music changed. Everyone stood. And there she was. My Chloe. She was a vision. Her face veiled, her arm linked with a distant uncle she barely knew. Helena had insisted it was more appropriate than having no one. As she processed down the aisle, her eyes swept the guests. They passed over the front rows, then moved back. They found me, sitting in the last row, next to a formidable-looking old man with a cane. Her step faltered. For a second, pure, unguarded shock and then horror flashed across her face before the veil and her training hid it. I saw Brent's head turn slightly, his eyes narrow. Helena's perfect smile froze into a grimace. The officiant, a polished reverend, began. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony. He spoke about love commitment, the joining of two families. Then he reached the question. If anyone here present can show just cause why these two should not be lawfully joined together, let them speak now or forever hold their peace. It was a formality, a pause for dramatic effect in the script. In the expectant silence that followed, Arthur moved. He didn't shout. He didn't even speak. He simply stood up, slowly, deliberately using his cane for leverage. He rose to his full height, a tall, straight pillar of quiet authority in the last row. He didn't look at the couple. He gazed calmly ahead, as if waiting. The Reverend's words died in his throat. The quartet, playing soft background music, trailed off uncertainly. 150 heads swiveled. The silence that fell wasn't peaceful. It was electric, thick with shock. All eyes were on the old man and the mother of the bride sitting defiantly in the cheap seats. Chloe looked like she might faint. Brent's face was a mask of thunderous confusion. The entire ceremony had stopped. Into that profound silence, Arthur spoke. His voice was a deep, clear baritone that carried effortlessly across the lawn, the voice of a man used to being heard in a courtroom. "Forgive the interruption," he began, utterly calm. "My name is Arthur W. Thorne. I am a retired mediator for the family court. I am here today as the friend and designated escort of Patsy Collins, mother of the bride." He let that title hang in the air. Mother of the bride. He continued his tone, not accusatory, but profoundly sad and utterly firm. "We gather to bless a new union, the creation of a new family. But we must ask ourselves, what foundation are we building upon? When the person who is the living memory of the bride's family, the one who sacrificed and loved her into the woman she is today, is deemed a secondary concern, relegated to a seat among strangers. What does that say about the values we are celebrating today?" He spoke of Michael, of the love that built our home, of the struggles after he was gone. He spoke not of anger, but of forgotten respect. "This is not about a chair," he said, his eyes sweeping over the stunned faces in the front rows. "This is about acknowledging the roots so the tree can grow strong. To ignore them is to risk the whole structure." While he spoke, I opened my clutch. My hands were steady. I pulled out the small leather-bound album. I stood up. In the ringing quiet, the sound of my heels on the stone pathway was loud. I walked slowly, deliberately down the side aisle, past rows of gaping guests, all the way to the front. I did not look at Chloe or Brent or Helena. I walked straight to table 1. There was one empty chair, the one that should have been mine. I placed the restored family album carefully, squarely on the seat cushion. A tangible piece of our history, of the love they were trying to airbrush out of the picture. I turned and walked back to my seat in the last row. Arthur was still standing. He gave one final slow look, around a look that seemed to weigh and measure the soul of the event. "I require no new seating arrangement," he said quietly. "I only ask for reflection. Please, continue." He sat down. The silence was absolute. The Reverend, flushed and flustered, looked desperately at Chloe and Brent. He leaned in and whispered, "Do you wish to proceed?" What followed was not a wedding. It was a strained formality, performed under a pall. The vows were exchanged in rushed, hushed tones. The kiss was perfunctory. The applause that followed was sparse and confused. The bubble of perfect, wealthy bliss had been irrevocably popped. As soon as the recessional ended, people broke into frantic, whispered conversation. Arthur and I made no move to join the crowd migrating toward the reception tent. We simply stood, preparing to leave quietly. But then a flurry of white silk came rushing down the side path. "Mum, wait." Chloe was there. Her veil torn off, her makeup streaked with tears. She clutched my arms. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was awful. I lost myself. Please don't go like this." Her sobs were ragged real. This wasn't the polished daughter from the last year. This was my girl, heartbroken and ashamed. Before I could answer, Brent strode up. His jaw clenched. Helena hovered behind him, her expression a mixture of outrage and sheer social panic. Arthur stepped forward just slightly, placing himself partially between them and me. He looked at Brent, not with anger, but with immense, weary disappointment. "Son," he said, his voice low so only our little group could hear. "A business built on a weak ethical foundation will eventually fail. A family is no different. Remember that." Brent stared at him, then at me, then at Chloe, crying on my shoulder. The arrogant certainty in his eyes had cracked, replaced by a bewildered anger. He had no script for this. I held Chloe, stroking her hair. "I love you," I whispered into her ear. "I always have. But love doesn't mean I make myself invisible. Go back to your guests. We'll talk when you get home from your honeymoon." I gently disentangled myself. I took Arthur's arm, and together we walked away from the glittering tent, the whispering crowd, the ruins of the perfect wedding. We left in silence, but my head was held high. The weeks that followed were a quiet, tidal shift. I returned to my workbench. The rhythmic healing work of repairing torn pages and strengthening broken spines was a meditation. I didn't hear from Chloe, and I had to learn to be okay with that silence. I had tea with Arthur often. He never asked for details, just let me talk or sit in companionable quiet. I joined a small local bookbinding guild, finding solace in sharing my craft with others who spoke the language of paper and glue. Then, 3 weeks later, a letter arrived. Not an email. A proper letter on heavy hotel stationery postmarked from the Caribbean. Chloe's handwriting messy and urgent. "Mum," it began. "I'm writing this from the balcony of a suite that costs more per night than our old mortgage. It's beautiful, and I feel utterly empty. I've been carrying the album you left. I look at it every night. I see Dad's face. I see my own smile when it was real. I tried so hard to become something I thought was better, and I threw away the best part of me on the way. I want to find my way back. I want to come home." The letter didn't promise miracles. It didn't say everything was fixed. But it was a true beginning, a crack in the facade. It was her hand reaching back across the distance she had created. Here is what I learned sitting here at my bench, surrounded by the ghosts of stories waiting to be repaired. Sometimes loving someone means standing your ground even when it makes them uncomfortable. Dignity isn't something you demand, it's something you embody. The most powerful rebellion isn't a scream. It's your silent, deliberate presence backed by truth and an unwavering heart. I didn't set out to break anything that day. I simply refused to be a shameful secret at my own daughter's wedding. My story isn't about a dramatic rescue or a magical forgiveness. It's about a quiet reclaiming of self. So I want to ask you, have you ever had a moment where you had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect? How did you find that strength? Share your story in the comments below. Let's learn from each other. If this journey resonated with you, please give this video a like. It lets me know these shared experiences matter. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about finding our way back to ourselves. One difficult, honest choice at a time. And if you know someone who needs to hear that it's okay to take up space to be seen, please share this with them. Thank you for listening. And remember, no matter where they seat you, you always have a right to your own story. Be well.